generational wealth. And speaking of generational wealth, Quincy Jones. So
Yes.
Quincy Jones, unfortunately, passed away last year. There was a big, you know, a lot of articles and a lot of people was talking about how he left each of his kids. I believe he have like 4 or 5 kids. I believe he left them individually like $80 million, but he also left an estate,
Mm-hmm.
right? An estate of music, movie rights.
Right.
He owned a part of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Didn't know that.
He owned some of Michael Jackson music.
Yeah.
Like he had,
yeah.
yeah, you know what I'm saying.
Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a lot of that still in his estate. And the Quincy Jones family, who inherited the estates and assets, just sold a majority of all the assets that the estates held to an investment firm, HarbourView.
And if you guys don't know what an estate is, it's basically everything that you own upon the time of your death.
Yes.
So if it is real property, intellectual property, investments, whatever it is, it's total. And then it's up to the person who writes their will to divvy it up. And so that is your estate. It's everything you have.
Okay, now this brings a conversation now to, should you sell grandma's house? You know how that's like a running thing. And
no, yeah.
Should you sell granddad's house? Should you sell grandma's house? And it's like,
what would you say?
I mean, I think it honestly depends.
It depends.
So in this situation, the music business is extremely tough.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that are in his family, his kids, they probably got their own lives, their own businesses. He set them up for generations and generations and generations to come. And if they didn't have something, or that burning desire to actually continue the legacy, continue in the music and entertainment business, continue building out something, then I think selling it actually makes sense, because they can all go out and divide and do their own thing. But if you think about generations like the Walton family, like they control that entity, and they still are some of the richest people in the world today. So there's always some type of give and take. Like you don't want, like, okay, there was this young lady going viral online saying families need to stop letting, and you know I don't agree with this, but they need to stop letting men inherit the houses, because a lot of men sit there waiting on grandma, inherit the house, lose it to taxes, and still, like, grandma is taking care of their uncles from the grave, and then the uncles let the stuff run to the ground. And she was saying, like, a lot of her female friends are buying the properties, rehabbing them, doing all of this, but the males are sitting around just not paying no rent, not paying nothing.
That actually happened to me. Well, that actually happened to my family. Shout out to my mom, because she mad when I tell our business. But that actually happened. So my great grandparents, they got this house because my grandfather was in the military, so they got the VA loan, and they passed and gave it to their children. And really, the situation was whatever child needed it, right? So they had 4 kids, but just one needed it, right? So the one uncle that needed the house, so he got it, he moved in, everything like that. He didn't pay the taxes.
Yes.
So he didn't pay the taxes, and our family lost the house to people who were not a part of our community. They came in, rehabbed the house, sold it back to my family for like triple the price.
Oh my God.
I'm telling you.
That is
you. And so we bought it back, and you know, they knew it was a family's. They knew that we would pay anything for it. And so, you know, they stole our wealth.
Yes, wealth is stolen. I say that all the time. Like, you got to realize estates wealth is where a lot of wealth is stolen. And then they didn't have a specific number on what they sold all of these assets for. But I can guarantee you, if a private equity firm is buying it from individuals in the family that don't know the business, they're buying it undervalued.
Yes.
Because if your dad leaves you some royalties or something, and somebody comes offer you $35 million, most people will take it. You don't know it's worth $65.
Yeah.
You don't know it's worth $100.
And so I think to your point about like Quincy Jones, and if you're not trying to like further the legacy, maybe it's best for the legacy to put it in the hands of people who understand the business.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like ignorance on both sides. Like, I don't necessarily know how to push this forward, but I also don't know, like, I potentially, and I'm not going to say what they do and do not know.
Right.
I potentially don't know how much I should sell it for.
Yes.
You know, because I would say a lot of this stuff is like priceless.
Yes.
What is the price on Thriller?
Right. What's the price on Michael Jackson? Like, come on.
He also produced like Tupac's, I think Round the Way or something. Let me see. Tupac's How Do You Want It? That's every cookout.
Generational.
That's what I'm saying. That's generational. So what is the price? If anything, maybe they could have. I don't know. They did say they sold it, huh?
Yes. They because a private equity firm buying it, they're not gonna do no partnership.
That's what I was gonna say.
Because they only would do a partnership if they knew if somebody else was in the business. Kind of like Larry Ellison is, he got his son. His son is not in the software business, which is why he's buying all these media assets for his son, because his son is in the media business. But like Larry Ellison wouldn't like anoint his son to run Oracle. He don't know what he's doing on running Oracle. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of one of those things where they don't have a family member that they can anoint to like run the musical and entertainment estate, or that's from the outside looking in. We don't know. Maybe they got.
Well, they have the one daughter that kind of pops up in different shows, Rashida Jones, and she's the only person that I know to be like visible.
Visible.
Yes. So I don't know what the other siblings do, but
and then she might have 1/5 of voting in that. So it's like she probably want to further and do all of this, but then they probably like, you know what, I want a beach house, so let's sell it.
And then we're not going to publicize and make public whatever infighting they might be doing.
Exactly.
I'm hoping they're not, but like, let's just say it is. That would ruin his legacy, that his kids is fighting about his estate.
I mean, there's a lot of families and a lot of people that fight over their estates, no matter how much money it is. I seen a tweet when it was like a real rundown house, and it was like, this is the house that tore my family apart. And that's some real stuff, man. People be going in and going at it because one uncle don't want to take care of the house but want to live in the house. One person want to take the house and flip it but don't want nobody else to live in there because they're trying to sell it. And this other person wants to do the right thing by grandma's wishes, but everybody hate them because grandma wishes goes against them taking advantage of the property. So it's always these ulterior motives, and it's not like a cookie cutter never sell, because it's a lot of times that you can sell assets and use that to parlay that into something else. Like Master P, for example, he inherited some property and life insurance money from his parents or his grandparents, and put that into No Limit and grew that into hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's like,
that's why I think it depends, right? Because what I hear you saying is, if you have access to a different avenue of wealth, then it makes sense for you.
It makes sense to make an exit. We can't try to demonize people all the time for exiting.
Yeah.
Because if I own my company and I don't have a daughter or a son or somebody in my family that can take the legacy of what I've built and move it on,
right?
Maybe it is best to sell it, put it in the trust, put some assets, put the money into the stock market, and let my family live off the dividends for the next year or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, for the next generation
However
or whatever,
much.
and then that next generation is going to decide what they're going to do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a terrible thing to liquidate assets, but what I do know is, more than likely, they probably didn't know the value of these music assets. It's different from a house. If like you get an appraiser. They sell the mansion. I seen when he died, the mansion was up for sale in like 2 months.
Jesus.
So like they sold his mansion. Yeah, they didn't waste no time. They sold his mansion. Well, I don't know if it's actually sold.
It was up for sale.
It was up for sale, so it could still. It's a mansion, so it might take years to sell.
Sure.
But you can get an appraisal of what this mansion is worth versus, it's real estate. So you're going to get a little bit, you might be off a couple $100,000,
right?
But you're not going to be off tens of millions of dollars. Like you can misprice intellectual property, because
Yeah.
the value of a song is very low. I can go make a song right now, and it's like,
who's paying for it?
who's paying for it? Nobody would pay $1 for my song. But then Quincy Jones go make, like you say, he go
You're
make
selling
Thriller.
yourself short. I think you're creative.
I mean, somebody might pay $1 or $2. You know what I'm saying?
I give you $150.
I can't get a bag of chips with that. Chips $159 now. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, like, I go make a song, I'll get $159 for a bag of chips. Quincy Jones go make a song, he get 50, tens of, hundreds of millions of dollars. So it's like
hundreds of millions of
intellectual
dollars.
property is one of those assets that you can't value, but when you know the value is there, it's there.
When we're talking about Off the Wall, we're talking about Thriller, we're talking about Bad, we're talking about Michael Jackson's PYT.
Yes.
Tupac. He's even tied to Kanye West's Good Life.
Wow.
He's even tied to Prince's Purple Rain.
Yes.
Like, when we're talking about the type of cultural juggernaut, the type of movement that his influence and his insight and his talent was able to produce, like I said, it's kind of, I don't know what that number is.
The number is valuable to, it depends on who's buying it. It's always depending on who's buying it. Let me give you a great example, right? So my friends own a clothing brand. Mm-hmm. And they clothing brand do millions of dollars, whatever. They young guys, they killing it. So we were talking about investments. Mm-hmm. And they were saying, like, what would you take an investment for to grow their company? So, and I was explaining to them, like, a loan from a bank at $1 million is different than if y'all get an investment from the founder of Nike. Mm-hmm. Because the founder of Nike, your brand, he has so much intellect, he has so much know-how, he can take your brand and put it in 1,000 stores overnight. So, like, money or intellectual property is not always even. Sometimes people see $1 million and just say $1 million. No. When the $1 million is attached to expertise,
right,
that $1 million is now worth hundreds of millions, because it's like they know how to run up that brand. But that same investor, the owner of Nike, Phil Knight, if you take him to a car company, mm-hmm. he's not as valuable.
Yeah.
Yes, he's valuable because he has the money. Money is always valuable. But he's not as valuable because he's not in his area of expertise. So the money is valuable to them because they're just inheriting. They didn't work for it. Only thing they did is literally, was his child.
Yeah.
This private equity firm, they know that they can take this and sell it off to Universal Music Group. One of these big firms and these big companies, they know it's a lot more valuable to those.
I wonder if that
firms.
Number is going to come out.
Probably it's never going to come out. I mean, because no matter what the number, people going to say it's not enough. 500 million. Nah, that ain't enough.
Well, that's not.
But that's what I'm saying. 500 million is life-changing generational money. But to sit here and say that's not enough, it's like you sound crazy. But you're
also,
not, you're not crazy at all, because it should be worth more.
Because if Amazon is valued at what, $300 billion or something like that,
more than that.
More
than
than that.
They about $1.5 trillion.
Then what's Thriller? What's the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air? Like, what are we saying?
Yeah, it's worth a lot of money.
Yes,
but certain stuff is only worth what you're willing to pay, or what somebody else is willing to pay.
Interesting. I'm looking up the private equity firm now. We invest in creatives who forge narratives that influence entertainment and media across. I don't know.
Yeah, no matter.
But you know what? If the family thinks it's a good idea, and they grew up under his, they're basically, they grew up under his taste. You know what I mean? As a creative. And so it is not lost on them what their dad meant to the world.
Yes.
And so I'm hoping that I don't think there's any money that'll ever be enough. I'll just state that. Yeah. But I'm hoping that it was enough for them.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Because even if they would have paid them $2 billion, people would be like, they paid them $2 billion?
Yeah.
That means it's worth 10. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. People never pay you exactly what you're worth. When they're trying to get an investment, they're going to pay you because they think they're getting a good deal.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. In order to continue to support independent journalism, I need you to subscribe to our page below. And also, if you want the full podcast and more exclusive content, make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. Link is in the description.